In the heart of New York City, a notorious hacker named Axel had eluded capture for years, his digital footprints disappearing like smoke. The FBI's cyber division had been chasing Axel, knowing he was the mastermind behind numerous global cyber attacks. Special Agent Miller, a seasoned FBI operative, was tasked with leading the investigation against the elusive hacker. Axel, however, was not just any hacker. He was a genius with a mysterious past and an obsession with winning. The chase began when Axel hacked into one of the FBI's top-secret databases, mocking them with his signature, "Catch me if you can." Agent Miller gathered his team, knowing this was no ordinary case but a war between brains and technology. Axel lived a double life, traveling the world under fake identities while hacking government systems from luxurious hotel rooms. One day, Axel found himself in a high-tech villa overlooking the French Riviera, enjoying the view after another successful hack. The tourists below marveled at the beauty of the Mediterranean, unaware that one of the world's most wanted criminals was right above them. Axel loved the thrill of being a ghost among the living, blending in with the crowds while manipulating the world's digital infrastructure. Back at FBI headquarters, Agent Miller had discovered a pattern in Axel's moves. Every attack was followed by a trip to a famous tourist destination. The team zeroed in on Axel's next likely stop, a small, picturesque island in Greece known for its privacy and stunning views. As Axel arrived on the island, blending with tourists, he checked into a secluded villa perched on a cliffside. He smiled as he opened his laptop, prepared for his next grand heist, a hack on the global banking system. Meanwhile, Agent Miller and his team flew to Greece, knowing this might be their only chance to catch Axel in the act. The team moved with precision, tracking Axel's digital signature to the villa, but they had to act fast. Axel was already deep into the system, watching millions of dollars shift from one account to another with just a few keystrokes. As the sun set over the island, Axel felt invincible, unaware that the FBI was closing in. Agent Miller's heart raced as they neared the villa, knowing one wrong move could alert Axel and he'd vanish again. Inside, Axel paused, his instincts sharp. Something didn't feel right. He quickly activated his security systems, setting traps in the code to wipe everything if someone got too close. The FBI team was in position, waiting for Miller's signal to breach the villa. Axel stood up, glancing out the window at the peaceful ocean, wondering if this was the moment he needed to disappear for good. Miller gave the signal, and the team moved in with speed and silence, breaching the villa's defenses. Axel heard the faint sound of footsteps, but it was too late. The FBI had surrounded the building. He sprinted to his escape plan, a hidden tunnel under the villa that led to the beach. Miller and his team stormed the villa, finding Axel's empty room and the still warm laptop, but no Axel. Axel was already on the beach, running towards a hidden speedboat that would take him to safety. The FBI team realized they had been tricked once again as they found the entrance to the tunnel. Axel's boat sped off under the cover of night, but Agent Miller wasn't ready to give up. The FBI tracked the boat, using drones and satellites to follow Axel's every move. Axel knew he was running out of time. The FBI was too close, and he had to disappear fast. He navigated the boat to a hidden cove, where a small plane waited to take him to another remote location. As Axel climbed aboard the plane, he couldn't help but admire the beauty of the moonlit sea. The plane took off just as the FBI closed in on the cove, narrowly missing their target once again. Axel felt a rush of adrenaline as the plane soared into the night sky, but his confidence was starting to crack. Agent Miller, watching from a drone feed, knew that Axel was slipping through their fingers once more. But Miller had a backup plan. He had traced Axel's plane to a private airstrip in the mountains of Switzerland. Axel landed safely, thinking he had escaped, but the FBI was already waiting for him in the shadows. As Axel stepped off the plane, he was greeted by the sight of Agent Miller standing in front of him. Axel smirked, impressed by the FBI's persistence, but he had one last trick up his sleeve. He pressed a button on his watch, triggering a massive digital blackout that took out all communications in the area. The FBI team scrambled as their systems went down, but Miller remained calm, knowing they had prepared for this. Axel tried to flee into the mountains, but Miller was faster, chasing him through the rugged terrain. The hacker stumbled, realizing he was no match for the FBI in a physical chase. Miller tackled Axel to the ground, pinning him down as the rest of the FBI team arrived. Axel, out of breath, laughed, "You may have caught me, but my legacy will live on in the code." Miller, unamused, replied, "It's over, Axel. No more running." As the FBI placed Axel in handcuffs, the hacker gazed at the night sky, a strange sense of peace washing over him. He knew he had lost the battle, but part of him felt relieved the chase was finally over. Agent Miller watched as Axel was taken away, knowing this was a victory not just for the FBI, but for justice. Back in New York, the world watched as news of Axel's capture spread like wildfire. Miller returned to the FBI headquarters, where he was greeted with applause from his team. The hacker, who had terrorized the world's digital systems, was finally behind bars. Axel sat in his cell, staring at the blank wall, wondering if this was truly the end of his journey. But deep down, he knew the world of hackers never truly sleeps and someone else would rise in his place. Miller, however, wasn't worried. He had faced the best, and he knew they could handle whatever came next. The FBI celebrated their victory, but Miller remained focused, knowing the digital war was far from over. Axel's arrest had sent a message to hackers everywhere: no one was untouchable. As the days passed, Miller began preparing for the next case, knowing there would always be another challenge. Meanwhile, Axel's name became a legend in the hacker community, inspiring a new generation of cybercriminals. But the FBI was ready, with new technology and a sharper team, determined to stay one step ahead. Miller walked through the halls of the FBI, reflecting on the years of chasing Axel, finally able to move on. He took a moment to appreciate the calm before the next storm, knowing peace in this world was always temporary. Tourists continued to visit the same places Axel had once hidden in, unaware of the digital battles fought behind the scenes. The hacker's legacy lived on in stories and whispers, but the world moved forward. Miller's mind was always working, anticipating the next move from the shadows of the digital world. Axel, in his cell, smirked as he watched the news, knowing his influence would never truly fade. The FBI remained vigilant, adapting to the ever-evolving threats of the cyber landscape. As the digital age advanced, the battle between hackers and law enforcement continued to grow more complex. The world was connected in ways it had never been before, and that connection brought both innovation and danger. For now, the FBI had won the war against Axel, but the fight for control over the digital world was far from over. Axel's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the power and danger of unchecked brilliance. Miller sat at his desk, reviewing new cases, always prepared for the next challenge. The FBI's cyber division expanded, recruiting the brightest minds to stay ahead of the curve. Axel's name faded from the headlines, but the impact of his work lingered in the systems he had once controlled. The world of hackers remained a mysterious and dangerous place, where genius and crime intertwined. But the FBI was there, always watching, always ready to protect the digital frontier. Axel had fallen, but the war raged on, a constant battle in the unseen world of code and data. Miller closed his eyes for a moment, letting himself rest, knowing tomorrow would bring another fight. The digital age had brought the world closer together, but it had also created new divides. For every hacker like Axel, there were countless others waiting to rise, each more dangerous than the last. But the FBI was ready, always learning, always evolving, knowing they had to stay ahead to survive. As Axel stared at the prison bars, he knew he had left his mark on the world, for better or worse. Miller, walking out of the FBI building, looked up at the city skyline, knowing the future was uncertain. But one thing was clear: the battle for control over the digital world would never end. Axel's capture had been a victory, but it was just one chapter in a much larger story. The world was changing, and both hackers and law enforcement had to evolve with it. For now, Miller and his team could celebrate their win, but they knew the war was far from over. Axel, sitting in his cell, smiled to himself, knowing that the game wasn't over yet. The digital age was full of opportunities, and Axel had always been good at seizing them. Miller, on the other hand, knew that with each victory came new challenges, and he was ready to face them all. As the city lights twinkled below, the hacker and the FBI agent both knew that the battle for the future was just beginning. The world of hackers and law enforcement was a game of chess, and both sides were constantly making moves. Axel had lost this round, but he had played a long game, one that wouldn't end with his capture. Miller, standing on the rooftop of the FBI building, looked out at the city and smiled. He knew the world was full of threats, but he also knew his team was ready for whatever came next. The digital age had changed the world forever, but it had also created new heroes and villains. Axel had been one of the most brilliant minds in the world, but even he couldn't escape justice forever. As the moonlit night faded into dawn, the world prepared for the next chapter in the endless battle of hacker vs FBI.